What were you looking to study, and why were you interested in this particular topic?
We began the project looking at all the preschool data that we have in this larger napping and emotional processing study that we have with over 400 preschoolers in it. And one thing that I brought to it was that I was interested in media use. So I'm not always in this lab. I have another lab that I'm part of on campus, and I was bringing a different aspect of research to it. So I decided to ask Rebecca Spencer, the PI in the lab, if we could do something with that. And she said, go for it. Just take the data and see what you find.
You wanted to take this media use, or this television viewing, and do something with that and study how it impacts sleep. What specifically you wanted to look at?
So I've done work before looking at children's use of media and whether or not it impacts them and their educational benefits. So working in a sleep lab in the summer, I decided to take what variables they had to work with and use them to see if media was having a negative impact potentially. I know with most of the feedback that we get from parents and what's out there in the general media, we do hear is, oh, technology is really bad and kids shouldn't use it, but they're using it anyway. So let's figure out what's happening when they do use it.
And when you're talking about media use, can you tell me specifically what kinds of media you study?
For this project, it was specifically looking at television use and television watching, but I've also looked at iPad use, so tablets, and mobile technology in general, so tablets and smartphones, and looking at how that might impact children as well.
But in this particular case, we're talking about the
Specifically
TV set.
talking about TV, yes.
Tell me what you did specifically for this study.
For this study, we had all of the data already collected, and I went back and looked through the survey responses that parents provided. And what was unique about this project was that we had actigraphy. So it's kind of like a Fitbit. It's a small watch that's worn on the wrist, and it has what's called an accelerometer in it. And it records activity, and it helps us get an idea of what their activity looks like throughout the day, and then we get an idea of what it looks like when they're sleeping or when they're napping.
And what did you find?
And we found that when children have a TV in their bedroom, or when they watch more TV, it was typically associated with less sleep throughout the entire day. Even though they napped longer during their nap times, those longer nap times were not able to make up for that decrease in the nighttime sleep.
About how much less sleep did they get at night, Abby?
It was significantly less sleep overall between the two groups. So with a TV in the bedroom, it was a significant decrease in the amount of sleep that children were getting. And when they were watching more than 2 hours of TV a day, more than 3, and especially more than 4, we were definitely seeing a big difference.
You said during the day, so that's not only TV right before bed, but that's a cumulative effect.
That's what it
of
would
the day?
seem, yes. And especially with the TV right before bed, that's something that we tend to discourage. And if the TV is in the bedroom, that would lead us to believe that there would be TV right before bed.
What is it about that TV right before bedtime that really is just not a good idea?
So there are multiple hypotheses about why that might be a problem, both for kids and for adults. And so what happens is that light emanating from the TV screen can, mess with the melatonin and not allow your body to calm down before sleep. It also depends what content you're watching on TV. If you're watching for a child, if it's a really exciting TV show, SpongeBob, or a certain show that they really like, I'm imagining kids will watch something they really like before bed. It's not always going to be something very calm. So if they're watching something exciting, it will take them a little bit of a while to calm down before they go to bed. And same thing for adults. If they're watching a violent TV show or something just really exciting, action-packed, it's going to take them a while to calm down before they go back to bed.
Any indication why TV even earlier in the day might impact their sleep?
We have not looked at that specifically and how that might impact. But again, if you're waking up right away and that's the first thing you're doing is looking at a screen, you're not allowing your body to wake up in a very natural way. You're instantly, again, putting that screen, putting that bright light right in your eyes and changing the way that your biology is getting impacted there.
What are the implications of the findings in this research?
The two main things that we can tell parents to help them figure out what might be going on with their child's sleep. First of all, keep the TV out of the bedroom if you can. If you can't, decrease the number of hours that they're watching. Try and do fewer than 2 hours a day if you can. And if you can't do both, just pick one, and that will hopefully lead to a benefit for the child.
Are there other things that parents need to think about in terms of TV use?
I would say, again, the content that they're watching, just making sure that if they are watching it before bed, if that's become part of their regular ritual, then keep it calming. Pick a show that's not as exciting, and maybe try and turn off the TV 30 minutes before, lights out, and make sure that that becomes more part of their routine. That it's not as an exciting experience, it's more of this is what we typically do. It's just like brushing your teeth, and maybe even make it a privilege type of deal, or make it not part of the routine.
Why sleep? Why is it so important? And why is there a focus right now on a couple of different fronts on how much sleep not only adults get, but our little guys?
I can probably generalize that far and say that not everyone is getting what they need. Maybe some of the little kids are, but adults definitely not. We stretch ourselves too thin. We don't understand, what the limits are on our bodies. But I think for us, sleep is critical for memory. Sleep is critical for emotional control and emotional regulation and simple attention. And when those things are impaired, that's when we see things. So if, for instance, if you're doing a 24-hour shift of something and mistakes start to happen, it's either in the medical field, if you're out on the road driving for a certain number of hours, just constantly, things happen, and you hate to be at fault, but we need to take care of our bodies and make sure we get the sleep that we need so we can be at our best, attentive, and remembering things that we need to remember.
And for our preschoolers, again, why is it so important that they get everything they need?
Their brains are still developing, so they really need to get that rest. And if you can imagine, when a preschooler is not getting enough sleep, you can kind of tell they're cranky and they're whiny and they just seem to not be fun to be around, and that's ideal to soothe that, to adjust that and fix it, is to get them to bed sooner, to bed longer, and maybe look at that nap that they take and adjust that. So especially at the preschool age, where naps sometimes tend to be cut down just for convenience sake, but the naps are critical for sure.
How did you get the sleep information as you were doing the research?
What's different from studies that have been done in the past looking at TV use and sleep is that they are both collected with surveys. But with ours, we had surveys, but we also had the actigraphy watch, which helps us get a non-biased result, because parents tend to overestimate the amount that children sleep. Whether it's to help them feel better about how much the child is sleeping, but that gives us, the specifics on their activity.
Does the watch actually indicate the type of sleep the child's getting, whether it's light, whether it's deep, or do you differentiate?
We only get just simple activity levels, so we can tell when they're at rest. But beyond that, the watch will only tell them the time. It's very simple, and I think that's helpful for them not to distract from what we're trying to do, not to draw their attention to what's on their wrist. It's just kind of a simple, boring watch. But for us, it gets blue light, red light, white light. And it knows when it's on the wrist and when it's not, so it helps to kind of break up if they take it off to go take a bath or go swimming, whatever. That helps us to kind of understand and decide.